The day the ships came was like any other, until it wasn't. The skies over every major city on Earth filled with massive vessels that blocked the sun. They were smooth and silver, with no visible windows or doors, and they made no sound as they hovered above the stunned population below. Alan Murphy was eating lunch in his university office when the news broke. Sandwich forgotten, he stared at the screen as reports came in from around the world. As one of Earth's top experts in communication theory and linguistics, he knew his phone would ring soon. It did. "Dr. Murphy, this is General Harris. Your country needs you in New York. Now." 6 hours later, Alan found himself in a hastily assembled crisis room at the United Nations. Leaders from every nation sat around a large table, faces drawn with worry. Beside him was Commander Olivia Jackson, her military uniform crisp, her expression giving nothing away. "What do we know about them?" Alan asked her quietly. "Nothing," Olivia replied. "They're not responding to any communications. They're just waiting." The room fell silent as the Secretary General stood. "We've received a message. They want to meet." The aliens had chosen the UN Plaza for first contact. Security teams created a perimeter, but the alien ship that descended from the larger vessels paid no attention to these preparations. It simply opened, and they walked out. There were 5 of them. They looked almost like tall, thin humans, except their skin had a blue tint, and their eyes were large and completely black. They wore simple white clothing that seemed to glow slightly. One stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Zorthak of the Galactic Empire. We represent 327 spacefaring species who have formed a unified government across this spiral arm of the galaxy." The words came out in perfect English, though the alien's mouth didn't move in a way that matched the sounds. Alan whispered to Olivia, "They must have some kind of translation technology." The Secretary General stepped forward. "We welcome you to Earth. I speak for the United Nations, a coalition of all human governments." Ambassador Zorthik tilted his head. "You are not unified. We have observed your broadcasts. You fight among yourselves." "We have differences," the Secretary General admitted, "but we stand together in greeting you." "That remains to be seen," Zorthik said. "We have come to evaluate your species for potential membership in the Galactic Empire." A murmur ran through the human delegation. Alan felt his heart race. This was it, proof that humanity wasn't alone, and an invitation to join a larger community. But Zorthik wasn't finished. "All species must pass a series of challenges before they can join. This is our law." "What kind of challenges?" Olivia asked, speaking out of turn, but too curious to remain silent. The alien turned those black eyes toward her. "Tests of your technology, your culture, your biology, and your military capability. Basic assessments that any worthy species should pass easily." The way he said basic made it clear he didn't think much of humanity's chances. "And if we fail?" the Secretary General asked. "Then Earth will be quarantined. No space travel beyond. Your solar system will be permitted for 1,000 years. The ambassador's voice was flat, as if discussing the weather. "This is for the safety of the galaxy." The human delegation was invited aboard the main alien ship the next day. Alan and Olivia were part of the small group chosen to go. The inside of the ship was bright white, with curved walls and floors that seemed to glow from within. There were no corners anywhere. They were led to a large room where a dozen other aliens waited. Unlike Zorthak, these aliens were different species, some with scales, some with fur, one that seemed to be made of living crystal. "The Council of Evaluators," Zorthak announced. "They will oversee your challenges." One of the aliens, a tall figure with 4 arms and red scales, stepped forward. "I am Chief Evaluator Dren. We have studied your species carefully. Your history is ... concerning. You fight wars over resources, territory, even ideas. You pollute your planet. You allow inequality among your own kind. Alan felt his face grow hot with shame, but also defensiveness. We've made mistakes, yes, but we're learning. In just the last century, we've reduced war, extended lifespans, and begun to fix our environmental problems. Dren made a sound that might have been a laugh. A century is nothing. Some members of the Empire live for thousands of years. Your progress is noted, but inadequate, Olivia spoke up. Then why bother testing us at all? It sounds like you've already decided we're not worthy. Zorthic's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. Protocol requires that all intelligent species be evaluated objectively. Your challenges will be tailored to your current level of development. You mean you'll make them easy for us? Olivia asked, her voice tight with controlled anger. We will make them ... appropriate, Zorthic replied. The first challenge is technological. You will create a functioning quantum entanglement communication device within 6 months. The human scientists in the room looked at each other in shock. Earth had theories about such technology, but nothing close to a working model. That's impossible, said Dr. Karan Lee, Earth's leading quantum physicist. We're decades away from that technology. Then you will fail, Dren said simply, and be quarantined. Alan saw President Lopez's jaw tighten. We accept your challenge, she said firmly. All of them. What else? The second challenge is cultural, Zorthek continued. You will demonstrate unity across all human nations for a common purpose. Given Earth's history of conflict, this seemed designed to make them fail. The third challenge is biological. You will cure a synthetic disease we will provide. Dr. Nathan Reed, the medical expert, frowned. Without knowing what the disease is, you will be given all relevant data, Zorthik interrupted. And the final challenge? Olivia asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Military, Zorthik confirmed. You will defend your planet against a simulated attack by Imperial forces. The room fell silent as the humans absorbed what they were being asked to do. These weren't tests. They were designed to prove human inadequacy. We will begin preparations immediately, President Lopez said, her voice steady despite the impossible tasks ahead. As they left the ship, Alan walked beside Olivia. They don't think we can do it, he said quietly. Olivia's face was grim, but determined. Then we'll just have to prove them wrong. Back on Earth, news of the challenges spread quickly. Some people panicked. Others claimed it was all a hoax. But in labs and government buildings around the world, people began to work. Alan looked up at the alien ships still hanging in the sky and felt something stir inside him. Not fear, but determination. Humanity had always done its best work when pushed to the edge. And right now, they were standing at the edge of a new era. The Galactic Empire had no idea who they were dealing with. 3 weeks after the aliens arrived, Dr. Gregory Bennett stood in his lab in Montana, staring at equations that covered a large glass board. Dark circles under his eyes showed he hadn't slept much. Creating a quantum entanglement device in 6 months seemed impossible. Most scientists thought it would take decades, maybe even centuries, to develop such technology. More coffee? Asked his assistant, Lily, holding out a steaming mug. Gregory took it without looking away from his work. Thanks. Any word from the other teams? The Japanese group thinks they found a way to stabilize the quantum field for a few microseconds. The German team has a new idea about the containment system. Gregory nodded. After the Galactic Empire had announced their challenges, the world's governments had done something unprecedented. They shared everything. Every secret research project, every classified technology. Scientists who once competed now worked together. It wasn't enough, though. They needed a breakthrough. Dr. Bennett, a young researcher, burst into the lab, tablet in hand. The Chinese team just sent this over. They combined our approach with the Russian method. Gregory looked at the data and felt his heart skip. This ... This could work. Get everyone in here now. Across the world, similar scenes played out as humanity tackled the impossible challenges. In Washington, D.C., Senator Patricia Martinez worked around the clock to create the global unity the aliens demanded. The Chinese delegation is worried about losing influence, her aide said as they walked quickly down a hallway in the United Nations temporary headquarters. Tell them everyone is giving up something, Patricia replied. The Americans are sharing military tech. The Russians are opening their borders. No one gets to hold back. The aide nodded. And the smaller nations? Equal votes on a new global council. No exceptions. Patricia had spent her life in politics, but nothing had prepared her for this. Creating unity among nations that had been enemies for centuries seemed as impossible as the quantum device. Yet something strange was happening. The alien threat had changed things. Old enemies now talked. Historic rivals now shared resources. Senator, called a voice. Patricia turned to see Alan Murphy hurrying toward her. Dr. Murphy, how's the communication with our visitors going? She asked. Alan ran a hand through his messy hair. That's what I wanted to tell you. I've been studying their language patterns. The way they talk about these challenges, it's odd. Odd how? It's like they expect us to fail. Not just expect it, they're counting on it. Patricia frowned. You think these tests are rigged? I think they're designed based on what the Empire believes we can't do. They don't understand how humans respond to pressure. As they spoke, in Chicago, Dr. Susan Taylor peered into a microscope at the synthetic disease the aliens had provided. It was unlike anything seen on Earth. A virus that could rewrite DNA in ways that should be impossible. How's it going? Asked her colleague, Dr. Frank Reeves. Susan straightened up, rubbing her tired eyes. This thing is brilliant and terrifying. It targets specific genetic markers and deactivates them. Can we stop it? Not with any existing treatments. Susan looked at the readout from her latest test. But I noticed something strange. Remember how the aliens said they designed this virus specifically to test us? Frank nodded. Well, they designed it to attack a very narrow range of genetic markers. But humans have more genetic diversity than they accounted for. She pulled up a new screen showing test results. Look at these samples from different ethnic groups. Some are barely affected. Frank's eyes widened. They didn't account for human diversity. Exactly. And that gives us an opening. 2 months passed. The alien ships remained in orbit, silent watchers, as humanity raced against time. Every day, Ambassador Zorthik would request an update. Every day, the human representatives would report progress, but no breakthroughs. In Montana, Gregory Bennett hadn't left his lab in 3 days. The combined efforts of scientists worldwide had produced a prototype quantum entanglement device. It looked like a metal box with complex wiring and crystals inside. According to all their theories, it should work. In practice, it failed every time. One more test, Gregory said, voice hoarse from exhaustion. His team looked worried, but took their positions. The device powered up, humming softly. On a screen, they watched measurements of quantum particles separated by 50 feet. If it worked, changing one particle would instantly change its pair, allowing information to travel faster than light. Gregory adjusted one final setting and pressed the activation button. The humming grew louder. Warning lights flashed. Power. Levels rising, Lily called out. It's going to overload again. Gregory shook his head. No, something's different. Look at the quantum state readings. On the screen, The particles began to synchronize. The room fell silent as everyone watched. The miracle happened. Then cheers erupted as the test showed success. The first working quantum entanglement communication device built by humans. Gregory sank into a chair, tears in his eyes. Send word to the UN. Tell them we did it. In New York, Commander Olivia. Jackson received the news during a meeting with military leaders from around the world. They had been planning defenses for the final challenge, the simulated attack. So that's one challenge down, said General Wright from the European Alliance. Olivia nodded. And Senator Martinez reports that the Global Unity Accord will be signed tomorrow. All 196 nations on board. That's 2. Any word from the medical team? Dr. Taylor thinks they're close to a treatment for the synthetic disease. They're using genetic diversity as the foundation. The general leaned back in his chair. So we might actually pass these tests. We will pass them, Olivia said firmly. But I'm more concerned about what happens after. What do you mean? These challenges feel like they were designed to prove we're not ready. What happens when we prove we are? 4 months after the arrival of the Galactic Empire, humanity presented their completed quantum entanglement device. Ambassador Zorthek and the Alien Council examined it with what appeared to be shock. This should not have been possible. 1. Of the alien evaluators, muttered Zorthek's face remained expressionless. You have passed the first challenge. Barely. Alan Murphy, watching from the side, caught the slight emphasis on barely. It confirmed his suspicions that the Empire never expected them to succeed. The next day, all 196 nations of Earth signed the Global Unity Accord, creating a single governing body while preserving local cultures and systems. The signing ceremony was broadcast worldwide. The second challenge is complete, Zorthek announced. We will now evaluate your progress on the biological challenge. As Dr. Susan Taylor presented her team's cure for the synthetic disease, she noticed the aliens growing more agitated. They spoke among themselves in their own language, unaware that Alan had been studying it. What are they saying? Susan whispered to him. Alan's face was grim. They're saying we weren't supposed to find a cure so quickly. That something isn't right. We followed their rules, Susan said. We did what they asked. I don't think they expected us to succeed at any of these challenges, Alan replied. And I'm worried about what happens when we face the final one. The military challenge loomed ahead. And now everyone understood the Galactic Empire had severely underestimated humanity. The day of the final challenge arrived. General Keith Williams stood in the Global Defense Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens covered the walls, showing Earth's combined space fleet. It wasn't much, a few dozen ships that had been designed for travel within the solar system, now hastily equipped with weapons. They're going to destroy us, said a young officer nearby. Keith didn't respond. The man was probably right. The Galactic Empire's technology was centuries ahead of Earth's. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their shields nearly impenetrable. But Keith had a plan. Commander Olivia Jackson entered the room, followed by representatives from other nations' military forces. The Empire has announced the rules of engagement, she said. This will be a simulated battle. No real weapons will be fired, but their computers will calculate damage and casualties. So it's like a very high-stakes video game, said General Chun from the Chinese Space Force. Except if we lose, Earth gets quarantined for 1,000 years, Keith reminded them. Have they shared the scenario? Olivia nodded. A standard Imperial battle fleet will enter Earth orbit in 6 hours. Our job is to defend the planet. How many ships? Asked Admiral Patel from India. 50, Olivia replied. Each one larger and more advanced than anything we have. The room fell silent. It seemed hopeless. Keith cleared his throat. I've been studying the data we gathered from their ships. The Empire's technology is impressive, but their tactics are predictable. They fight like people who always win because they have better weapons. What are you suggesting? Olivia asked. That we fight dirty, Keith said. We have 5,000 small shuttles and maintenance craft. They're not warships, but the Empire's sensors will still track them. I say we use them. 6 hours later, the Imperial battle fleet appeared in Earth orbit. Massive ships with smooth, curved hulls and glowing energy weapons. Ambassador Zorthic's voice came through on all channels. The military challenge begins. Now, you must prevent our fleet from establishing control of your orbital space. Good luck. On the command ship, Chief Evaluator Dren stood beside Zorthic, watching the tactical display. Their fleet is tiny, he said. This will be over quickly. Zorthic nodded. As expected. Humans have never united before these challenges. Their military technology is primitive. Still, said another alien official, they passed the first 3 challenges. That was unexpected. Luck, Dren dismissed. They cannot... He stopped, staring at the display. What are they doing? Instead of forming a defensive line as expected, Earth's small fleet had scattered. And from the planet below, thousands of tiny craft were launching. Those aren't warships, Zorthic said, confused. They're maintenance vehicles, orbital shuttles, even private spacecraft. On Earth, Keith watched the Empire's confusion with grim satisfaction. They're trying to figure out our strategy, he said. They don't realize that those small craft are our strategy. The Imperial fleet began firing. Simulated weapons, destroying dozens of Earth ships. But there were thousands more, and they were all moving in seemingly random patterns. Their targeting systems can't keep up, Olivia said, watching the display. They're designed to track large military vessels, not swarms of small craft. Keith nodded. Phase 2, now. Across the battle space, the small human craft suddenly changed direction, converging on Imperial ships from all sides. Each one carried only a simple simulated explosive, not enough to damage the massive alien vessels under normal circumstances. But the Empire had never faced this tactic before. Their shields were designed to stop powerful energy weapons, not thousands of small kinetic impacts. In the simulation, the shields began to fail. Impossible, Dren sputtered, watching human craft slip through their defenses. Their technology is too primitive to penetrate our shields. They're not using technology, Zorthic realized. They're using numbers, and they're sacrificing their pilots. Indeed, in the simulation, hundreds of human craft were being destroyed for each successful hit on an Imperial vessel. But humans kept coming. On the largest Imperial ship, Admiral Vexnar, the military commander of the fleet, watched with growing alarm. They're targeting our propulsion systems and weapons. Not trying to destroy our ships, but disable them. A junior officer looked up from his console. Sir, they've disabled 30% of our fleet, and they're launching a new attack. Earth's actual military vessels, which had been hanging back, now surged forward. With many Imperial ships damaged by the swarm attacks, the human warships targeted specific weak points. In the command center on Earth, Keith watched as the tide of battle turned. Status report, he ordered. In the simulation, we've lost over half our ships, an officer replied. But we've disabled 60% of the Imperial fleet. They're falling back. Olivia looked at Keith. Casualty projections? Keith's face was grim. If this were real, thousands. We'd lose pilots at a rate no civilized society would accept. But we'd win, Olivia said quietly. Keith nodded. We'd win. On the Imperial command ship, the aliens watched in disbelief as their simulated fleet retreated from Earth orbit. They sacrificed their people without hesitation. Dren said, horrified. No species in the Empire would accept such losses. They didn't sacrifice anyone, Zorthak corrected. This was a simulation. They made a strategic decision, knowing no actual lives were at risk. Would they make the same choice in a real battle? Dren wondered. Z.O. Rethik studied the human command center through their monitoring systems. He saw the grim faces, the determination. Yes, he said, I believe they would. The simulation ended. Earth had won the final challenge. Ambassador Zorthik and Chief Evaluator Dren transported down to the United Nations building to deliver their assessment. The room was packed with world leaders and the heroes of the challenges. Dr. Bennett, Senator Martinez, Dr. Taylor, General Williams, Commander Jackson, and Dr. Murphy. Humanity has passed all 4 challenges, Zorthek announced, his voice flat. This was ... unexpected. Does this mean Earth will join the Galactic Empire? President Lopez asked. Dren and Zorthek exchanged glances. There are concerns, Dren said carefully. Your methods were unconventional, particularly in the military challenge. You fought irrationally, Zorthek added. Your commanders accepted casualty rates no civilized species would tolerate. Commander Jackson stepped forward. We fight to win, she said simply. Always have. And that, Dren said, is what concerns us. Alan Murphy, who had been quietly observing, suddenly understood. You never expected us to pass these challenges, did you? They weren't designed as a fair test. They were designed to prove we weren't ready. A long silence followed. Finally, Zorthek spoke. The challenges have been the same for all species for 10,000 years. Most take centuries to pass them. Some never do. But we did, Alan said. In 6 months. Yes, Zorthik admitted. And now the Empire must decide what to do with you. 2 days after humanity passed the final challenge, a new ship arrived in Earth orbit. It was larger than any they had seen before, a massive vessel that seemed to glow with inner light. The ship belonged to Grand Admiral Vexinar, the military. Leader of the Galactic Empire. Alan Murphy watched from the windows of the United Nations, building as smaller ships descended from the main vessel. This doesn't feel like a welcome party, he said to Olivia, who stood beside him. It's not, she agreed. Military vessels, heavy escort. They're worried about something. Inside the main conference room, world leaders gathered nervously. Mood had shifted from celebration to concern. President Lopez conferred quietly with her advisors as they waited for the imperial delegation. When Grand Admiral Vexinar entered, the room fell silent. Unlike Ambassador Zorthik, whose blue skin and tall frame seemed almost graceful, Vexinar was imposing. His skin was deep purple, with ridges along his face that suggested an evolutionary history of combat. He wore armor instead of the simple clothing the other aliens preferred. I am Grand Admiral Vexinar, he announced without preamble. I have reviewed the results of your challenges. President Lopez stepped forward. We passed all 4 tests, Admiral. We look forward to joining the Galactic Empire. Vexinar made a sound that might have been a laugh, but held no humor. That is not why. I am here. He gestured, and the screens around the room lit up with images from the military challenge. Your species has demonstrated concerning qualities. Concerning? Senator Martinez asked. We followed all the rules of your simulation. The rules? Yes, but your tactics. Vexinar pointed to footage of the swarm attacks. No civilized species sacrifices its own kind so readily. You sent thousands to die to secure victory. It was a simulation, General Williams reminded him. No one actually died. But you would make the same choices in a real battle, Vexinar said. It wasn't a question. No one denied it. Vexinar continued, his voice hard. Your species represents an unacceptable risk to the stability of the Empire. You are too unpredictable, too willing to embrace extreme measures. Ambassador Zorthik, who had been standing quietly to the side, spoke up. The challenges were meant to demonstrate their inadequacy, not reveal their potential threat. Alan caught Olivia's eye across the room. So they had been right. The tests were designed to make humanity fail. What exactly are you saying, Admiral? President Lopez asked, her voice steady despite the tension. The Empire has reached a decision, Vexinar announced. Earth will not be invited to join the Galactic Empire at this time. Instead, we offer you two options. The room grew very still. First option, accept permanent technological restrictions and military oversight. You may continue to develop, but under our supervision. Certain technologies will be forbidden. No weapons in space, no faster-than-light travel, no independent colonies beyond your solar system. And the second option? General Williams asked, though everyone could guess. Conflict, Vexinar said simply. We cannot allow an unpredictable species like yours to join galactic society without controls. If you refuse our oversight, we will be forced to take more direct measures. President Lopez's face hardened. You're threatening us because we passed your tests too well? We're protecting the galaxy, Vexinar corrected. You have 24 hours to decide. After the Imperial delegation left, Earth's leaders debated their options. The room was divided. Some argued for accepting the Empire's terms. At least humanity would have a chance to grow, even if limited. Others insisted it could not surrender. Their independence. We should fight, General Williams said. We proved we can hurt them in the simulation. That was a simulation, Dr. Bennett reminded him. In reality, their technology is far beyond ours. We'd be destroyed. Senator Martinez shook her head. Maybe not. They're clearly afraid of us for some reason. We should use that. Dr. Taylor, who had been quietly analyzing data from the Imperial ships, spoke up. I've been studying their biology from samples they provided for the disease challenge. They're physically weaker than humans. Longer lived, yes, but not as adaptable to stress or physical trauma. What are you suggesting? President Lopez asked. That there might be more than two options, Dr. Taylor replied in a private room. Alan. Murphy worked with a small team to analyze all communications from the Empire. He had become fluent enough in their language to catch nuances the translation devices missed. Look at this, he said, pointing to a recording of Vexinar speaking. To his subordinates. He's worried about something besides just us. He keeps referring to internal pressures and council concerns. Olivia leaned closer. You think there's disagreement within the Empire about how to handle us? I think the Empire isn't as united as they want us to believe, Alan said. And that gives us leverage. While Earth's leaders debated, Captain Ryan Miller of the Earth Defense Force received special orders. His ship, a small, fast vessel designed for reconnaissance, was to approach the Imperial fleet under the guise of delivering a message. In reality, his mission was far more dangerous. You understand what we're asking? General Williams said as they reviewed the plan. Ryan nodded. Get aboard their command ship, access their network, and broadcast their treachery to all member species of the Empire. It's likely a one-way trip, Olivia warned. Even if you succeed, escaping will be nearly impossible. I understand, Ryan said. His face showed no fear, only determination as the deadline approached. President Lopez met again with Grand Admiral Vexinar. The full Earth delegation was present, along with Imperial officials. We've considered your offer, President Lopez said, her voice firm. We reject it. Earth has earned its place among the stars by passing your challenges fairly. We will not accept second-class status in the galaxy. Vexinar's face showed no surprise. Then you choose conflict. Unfortunate, but not unexpected. He turned to leave. Prepare your defenses, though they will not save you. As the Imperial delegation departed, Olivia whispered to Alan, Ryan's team is aboard their command ship. They've got 30 minutes to complete their mission before the attack begins. Alan watched the aliens leave, his heart racing. Let's hope it's enough time. On the Imperial command ship, Ryan Miller and his small team moved silently through service corridors. Using data gathered during the challenges, they had identified weaknesses in the ship's security systems. Still, they had to move carefully. Discovery would mean immediate failure. Security checkpoint ahead, whispered Sergeant Kim, checking a scanner they had modified to detect alien life signs. Ryan nodded and signaled the team to stop. They waited as 2 guards passed, then continued toward the central network hub. According to their intelligence, from there, they could access the Imperial communication system. Remember, Ryan told his team, our job isn't to destroy their network, it's to use it. Meanwhile, on Earth, preparations for battle had begun. But President Lopez and her advisors knew the real fight wasn't happening in orbit. It was happening on that Imperial ship, in the quiet mission that might be humanity's only hope. The future of Earth depended on whether Captain Ryan Miller could complete his mission before the Empire launched its attack. On the Imperial command ship, Captain Ryan Miller and his team reached the central network hub. The room was smaller than they expected, filled with glowing panels and strange devices that hummed with energy. 2 alien technicians worked at control stations, unaware of the humans hiding just outside the door. We need a distraction, Ryan whispered to Sergeant Kim. Kim nodded and took a small device from her pocket. She slid it down the corridor, away from the network hub. The device activated, creating sounds of a system malfunction. As expected, one of the technicians left to investigate. The other remained at his post. 1 is better than 2, Ryan said. Let's move. They entered the room quickly. Before the remaining technician could react, Lieutenant Patel pressed a device against his neck. The alien slumped forward, unconscious but alive. We have 10 minutes before he wakes up, Patel said. Ryan moved to the main console. Thanks to Dr. Murphy's work deciphering the Imperial language and technology, they had a basic understanding of how to operate it. Ryan connected a human device to the alien system and began downloading data. Security protocols are heavy, he muttered, fingers moving quickly over the interface. But they never expected anyone to access from inside their own ship. On the bridge of the command ship, Grand Admiral Vixnar prepared to launch the attack. On Earth, his officers waited for his command. The humans have rejected our terms, Vixnar told them. They leave us no choice but to demonstrate our power. Target their military installations first, then government centers. Admiral, one of his officers said, should we inform the Galactic Council of our decision? Protocol requires. The Council moves too slowly, Vixnar interrupted. We will inform them after the humans have been subdued. They will understand the necessity. The officer hesitated, then nodded. No one questioned the Grand Admiral openly got back in the network hub. Ryan had found what they needed. Look at this, he said, showing his team the data scrolling across the screen. Communications between Vixnar and his inner circle. They've been hiding information from their own government. What kind of information? Kim asked. Reports from other species who were tested like us. Species who passed the challenges, but were still forced into controlled status or destroyed. Ryan's face darkened. The Empire has been doing this for centuries. Any species that shows too much potential is seen as a threat. Can you access their broadcast system? Patel asked. Ryan nodded. Working on it now. But we need to send this to more than just Earth. We need to send it to every species in the Empire. On Earth, Tension mounted as the deadline passed. The Imperial fleet moved into attack formation. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Williams watched the screens with growing concern. "Any word from Captain Miller's team?" he asked. Olivia shook her head. "Nothing yet, but no alarm has been raised on the Imperial ship either." "That's a good sign." President Lopez entered the room, followed by Alan Murphy and other advisors. "Our defenses are ready," she said. "But if Captain Miller fails—" "He won't fail," Olivia said firmly. Alan studied the data from their sensors. "The Imperial fleet is charging weapons. We have minutes at most." In the network hub, Ryan had finally broken through the security protocols. "I'm in," he said, connecting to the Galactic communication network now. His team gathered around him as he prepared the message. They had collected evidence of the Empire's deception, the rigged challenges, the suppression of rising species, the lies told to the Galactic Council. "Ready to broadcast," Ryan said. Then he paused, looking at his team. "This changes everything. Not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy." "Do it," Kim urged. Ryan pressed the final command. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds belonging to hundreds of species, the carefully controlled Imperial communication system was suddenly flooded with the truth. Evidence of the Empire's treachery spread from planet to planet, ship to ship, reaching even the chambers of the Galactic Council itself. On the command ship's bridge, alarms blared. Officers rushed to their stations as screens showed the unauthorized broadcast spreading across Imperial space. "What is happening?" Vexinar demanded. "Someone has accessed our secure network," an officer replied, voice shaking with fear. "There, broadcasting restricted information to all Imperial worlds." Vexinar's face darkened with rage. The humans. Find them, but it was too late. The broadcast couldn't be stopped. Worse, responses were already coming in from across the Empire. Member species who had long suspected the truth were now seeing evidence. Allied worlds were demanding explanations. The Galactic Council itself was calling for Vexinar to answer for his actions. On Earth, the screens in the command center suddenly changed. The Imperial fleet was pulling back, weapons powering down. "They're retreating," Olivia said in disbelief. Alan looked at the incoming transmissions. "Not retreating. They've been ordered to stand down by the Galactic Council." President Lopez turned to her advisors. "What does this mean?" "It means Captain Miller succeeded," General Williams said, a rare smile crossing his face. "He exposed the truth." 5 years passed. Earth had changed dramatically. With access to Imperial technology and knowledge, humanity had advanced centuries. In just a few years, clean energy powered the world. Disease was becoming a distant memory. The first human faster-than-light ships were being built. But the biggest change was in the galaxy itself. The Galactic Empire was gone, replaced by a new Galactic Council where all species had equal representation. Many worlds that had been suppressed or controlled now had freedom. The revelation of the Empire's treachery had sparked a revolution. That transformed galactic society. In the Grand Chamber of the new Galactic Council, Dr. Alan Murphy, now Earth's ambassador, prepared to address the assembled representatives. Beside him stood Zorthik, the former Imperial ambassador who had survived the transition and now served as a cultural liaison between old and new. "We believed challenging humanity would prove your inferiority," Zorthik admitted quietly to Alan. "Before the session began. Instead, it revealed our own. Our greatest mistake wasn't underestimating your technology or military. It was failing to understand that adversity doesn't break your species, it defines you." Alan nodded. "For most of our history, we looked to the stars and wondered if we were alone. And now?" Zorthik asked. Alan looked out at the chamber, filled with representatives of 1,000 worlds, some who had been part of the old empire, others who had been suppressed, all now working together in a new galactic order. "Now we know the answer," Alan said. "We are not alone." "And neither are you. Not anymore." He stepped forward to address the council, ready to help build a future where no species would be judged by their differences, but celebrated for them. Where challenges would be faced together, not used to divide. The galaxy had changed forever. And it had all begun with a mistake, challenging a species that thrived on challenges. The end.